Hello and welcome to Talking Hoosier Baseball. Tonight is Monday, May 22nd, 2023. I am Carl James, joined as usual by Chris Feeney and the champion of B1G Pick'em 2 years in a row, Cassidy Palmer.
Oh,
How's everyone doing today?
doing
The
good.
champ, 2 back-to-back. That's impressive, though. That's good stuff.
Again,
Hey, I went back-to-back too, Carl. In fourth.
Yeah.
Again, I so wish that this worked in basketball and March Madness and I could make money. Evidently, it's just baseball and really just Big Ten baseball.
Yeah.
You found your niche.
Evidently.
Well, the Indiana Hoosiers have reached 40 wins on the season. Quite an impressive feat. Not something I think anybody would have predicted. I remember writing up the schedule analysis and trying to come up with how are they going to get to 37 wins. That seems a little tough based on the schedule, and to see this team get to 40 wins is quite impressive. So since we've last podcasted, that included a sweep of Purdue, which was very entertaining, a road excursion, late scheduled road excursion to Xavier, which was a very entertaining game. That was a tight one, but did come out a victory. Evansville came to town, and that was another close game. And then a road trip up to Michigan State, which didn't go quite as well, dropping the first 2 games of the series. Did manage to squeak out a win there on Sunday. Not enough, unfortunately. Indiana did finish second overall in the Big Ten behind Maryland. Maryland became the first team to go back-to-back in years as Big Ten champions since the Hoosiers did it in 2013, 2014. But Indiana is number 2. D1 Baseball picked Indiana number 6 preseason, but Indiana finishes number 2 with 40 wins, 27th in the RPI. Pretty much just a phenomenal turnaround for this team. Cassidy, what is on your mind this week?
Just excitement for the tourney. Excitement for postseason. I really love how this bullpen is set up. This feels like the deepest bullpen. I know we've talked about this quite a bit, but it feels like the deepest bullpen we've had going into postseason in about as long as I can remember. And that's helpful in postseason play.
Yeah, I would say it's right there matched up with 2015, which was the best bullpen I think Indiana's had in its history. That in its history since we've been covering it has been that 2015 team, which of course was led by Scott Efros. So
yeah, and so that's a really encouraging thing going into the postseason.
Yeah, and like what we were discussing before we hit record, we're actually concerned about because the rules keep changing and we're trying to figure out exactly what they are as to how many players they can take, because that could actually limit that. There's so many trusted arms that there's a concern about what is the limitation on the available players going to be for the tournament. So for this tournament, Big Ten tournament, and the various rounds of the NCAA regionals going forward.
Yeah, we're going to hope for a high number, Carl. I think we're going to need to really hope that it's, what are we thinking, 29, 27, maybe 31, whatever we can get.
Yep.
And
for some reason, they're always odd numbers. That's
So I'm going to go 31. That's a number I like. So we're going to stick with that. As far as this past weekend, of course, I wanted to win the whole thing. I did not want to share because it would have been a pretty weak share, if we're going to be honest here, the way that they took us to buy a woodshed. So it wouldn't have really been a share. But hey, we got there for the last weekend with a chance to win an outright big title. Where last year, we went to the last series hoping to make the Big Ten tournament.
Just clinging on.
Talking about a turnaround, it was huge. It was a fun weekend. Sure, did the games break the way we wanted to? No. It's rough losing, late like that 2 nights in a row, having the win and run at the plate. I really thought Hunter Jesse tagged that ball, but
Yeah.
things happen, and we end up the 2 seed. Is it disappointing when you know what we could have had, with that, going into the 3 games? But it is not disappointing season wide.
No.
Last year we sat during this time, and I remember saying, "I'm so happy we got in the Big Ten tournament." But it was kind of embarrassing that it came down to us praying to get into the Big Ten tournament. So, we have to switch it both ways.
Yep.
We'll take a 2 seed, and we'll see what we can do with it. I'm excited. Cass said it. Postseason baseball. I think we're both, we're all 3 of us are pretty secure in knowing that there's 2 tournaments, right? There's this one, and then there's June baseball, and that feels big.
Yeah.
And for me, when I take a look at this last series, I mean, what I both don't like what cost the series, but at the same time, going forward, it doesn't bother me. And that is the defense. The defense cost that Friday game. That Friday
Absolutely.
game should have been Indiana's, and it was 4 or 5 errors, depending on how it eventually ended up getting scored. But the point is, there were 5 defensive miscues, and they were very costly.
Yeah.
But looking at where this team is going now, what Friday proved is the second week in a row that Braden Reisdorf demonstrated his ability to be a legit Big Ten starter.
Yep.
And that is a huge step forward for this program to go from 1 starter to 2 real solid, legitimate. And you look at the numbers, he only went 3 1/3 or whatever, but that was because of the errors.
Yeah.
Those errors were all outs that he should have collected that he
And
didn't.
he has to throw more pitches in more high leverage spots.
Yeah, based on
something
what his
coach has talked about in the press conferences is what is his player going to do when things around him are not going the way they're supposed to, and he kept his cool, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Body
he did.
language was
Very
there,
much
his
so.
attitude was there,
Yeah.
and he really, like
Yeah.
you said, showed himself to be a Big Ten starter.
Yeah, he just ran out of pitches. He just got to the point that he got to his limit in pitches, and typically that pitch limit should have gotten him into like the 6th inning. So,
Well, and you also don't want to push that limit too hard going into
a
Big
short
Ten
week.
tournament.
Yeah,
Especially with a young arm,
Yeah.
I know they're very concerned about pushing guys when they shouldn't. I'm sure I know they're very how many pitches per inning that they're throwing, and not even just per game. And you know what? It just didn't work out. I was real content with the pitching changes. I really was like, well, you know what? You went with your guys, and it just didn't work, and that's okay sometimes. But I'm real glad we got that 3rd one, because 40 wins sounds nice.
Yeah.
Well, I was a little surprised Foley came back out there, and I was after the couple of runs, I was just sitting there like, come on, don't put us in the 10 a.m. Tuesday spot. Do not do that.
Right. 2 Ks to end
I'll
it,
take
though.
2 p.m. I'll take 2 p.m.
Yeah, no, he showed his mettle, and I think that's another version of things aren't going exactly how I'm used to or exactly how I want, but I'm going to strike the last 2 guys out anyway.
Yep.
So, I think we learned some stuff. Did I want that outright Big Ten title? Absolutely. I didn't want to share anyway.
Yeah.
So not the way that happened, not the way that went down. That would have felt undeserved.
agreed. Now we also do have to recognize that we don't know exactly what the condition of Ryan Kraft is at this point. And even if he's not available for the Big Ten tournament, honestly, I'm still feeling solid about the quality of the depth of the bullpen.
Yeah.
Yes, I absolutely want Ryan Kraft to be part of that. But I don't think it's a make or break type situation for what this team is able to do, given how many guys have stepped up lately. And one of those was, I know Chris is going to discuss later, I'm assuming, with red belts. So we'll hear about that. Let's take
But with Kraft, if it's the difference between having him for a regional or not, absolutely sit him for the Big Ten tourney. Would we love to win the tourney? Yes, absolutely.
But it changes everything because he could throw 7 innings, right? And it's going to take that out of the mix. And we saw another thing. Coach says a lot. What is it? 6 runs? Have the pitchers not give up more than 6 runs?
Mhm.
And what was Friday and Saturday, right? They were close games, but they got past the 6. And you know what? If we have a craft that's on, one of those games is not happening.
Yeah.
You know, they're not going to score as many runs. If the defense was on, they're not scoring as many runs.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of things that went into that. And, you know, 7 innings. I really look at that for a weekend. The craft's going to throw now, and taking that out does hurt in the mix. But we do have some guys stepping up, like you said.
Yeah. So about that, about the you know, what is the Big Ten tournament? What is its impact on the postseason, the next postseason, as you said, the second postseason? And the big picture analysis is it means absolutely nothing. The Big Ten tournament is something, obviously, you want to be playing your best baseball in at the end of the season. So that's a big piece of it. It is another trophy. It is another T-shirt. It's all those things. It's another championship to go for. It's something that the team really enjoys, and it's a great event. Pretty much any way it goes, the way I read it, Indiana's a 2 seed come next week. So the Big Ten tournament is not going to impact it one way or another. But the Big Ten tournament is still something we want to see Indiana do well in. And we want Cassidy to be able to watch lots of Indiana games in person there in Omaha. So how are the preparations for the trip going, Cassidy?
I'm not sure they've started yet, which is not a great thing. I just literally got back from a work trip late Thursday. I have had really 4 days at home in between trips. So the laundry is done. It just needs to get packed up. So I'm less stressed for packing for this than I was for the work trip. But I'm excited. It's not too far of a drive on my end and timed out perfectly with work, which usually doesn't happen.
Well, about that, though, we do want to go ahead and, I guess, discuss the Big Ten seating and the Big Ten schedule so that we can let everyone be prepared. The entire tournament, it's the entire tournament, correct? It's going to be on Big Ten Network. I actually did not look that up completely. That including the championship game. Okay.
Yep.
So they're all going to be on.
I believe so. Now you have me second guessing with the.
Yeah, if you could look that up, the championship game, because it's not impossible that could end up on a national thing, but everything else for sure is going to be on Big Ten Network. I think that champ game is going to be too. So the seating, there's this year there is quite a bit of difference. Basically, there's 2 changes to the schedule. The first is that games start on Tuesday when they used to be scheduled to start on Wednesday. The number of games in the tournament has not changed. The only format difference is in from 2014 to last year, there was an event called bracket flipping that took place at the semifinal round. That is not happening anymore. So, for example, Indiana is in the bracket. Indiana's the 2 seed in the bracket with 2 seed Indiana playing 7 seed Illinois, and 3 seed Iowa is facing off against 6 seed Michigan. So every game that Indiana plays in the tournament will be against one of those 3 teams until Sunday, in which there could be a single game against the other half of the bracket, which includes 1 seed Maryland, 4 seed Nebraska, 5 seed Rutgers, and 8 seed Michigan State. So tomorrow morning, while Cass is traveling, will be Iowa will be facing off against Michigan. So I will definitely be paying attention to that one. I will try to do some scoreboard watching posts of some sort on social media. Not quite as prevalent as I did with the Big Ten race this past weekend, but I'll have a few updates here and there. And that is, I'm sorry, I think on the times. What are the exact times, Chris?
Well, it's they have
Eastern.
them listed. If you go to the Big Ten Network, they have them listed in Central right time.
Yeah.
But if for us,
Local
it's going to
time.
be, we got 3 p.m. We got 9 a.m. And then we're going to play at 3 our time. Is basically what it is.
And
Okay.
it'd be, I, is it not 11 a.m.?
I guess it's 11
If
and
it's-
3.
Yes,
Yeah.
11
I
and
was gonna
3.
say,
Yep.
if it's 10, it's not 9.
Oh, did I say 9? Yeah.
You
Yeah.
did say 9.
It's 11
I'm
the
like,
first game, and then our game is at 3.
Yeah.
And then if we win, we would have a day off. We'd play at 3 again on Thursday.
Yep.
If we lose, we would play, it looks like, if I have it right, 8 o'clock the next day.
Yep.
So those are your times for the first 3 games.
8
And
p.m.
then
Yes.
8 p.m.
Not
Yep.
a.m.
No. So hopefully we
Nobody
win the
wants 8
first
a.m.
2, and we'll be sitting pretty at 2-0.
Yep.
But you never know.
Yes.
Yeah, but 3 p.m.s are the times that are going to be us. 8 p.m. if we lose game 2 would be at 8 p.m. We get a day off too. If we can win the first game, we get a day off, which is great.
Yeah.
And then
That
we'll play
is-
3 again on Thursday.
Yeah, that whole thing is huge. So it's the biggest struggle Indiana's going to have is that you're most likely looking at Indiana for sure is going to go up against Illinois' ace. Illinois had the advantage of not playing in Big Ten play last week. So they were able to limit their at least current, he has not been the ace all year, but he is their current ace. Jack Winninger is going to be facing off against the Hoosiers. The highlight of his season was quite impressive, a 9-inning, 1-hit shutout with no walks that he threw against Ohio State on April 29th. That was quite an impressive outing. He was 1 batter shy of a perfect game. That 1 batter happened in the 3rd inning. That's why there wasn't a better story about it. But still, overall, that was a pretty impressive outing.
Yeah.
Now, Indiana did face him on April 15th in Illinois, and that did not go well for him. Indiana managed 6 earned runs with 7 hits, 10 total batters in only 3.1 innings. So Indiana has already had success against him, but that was well over a month ago that happened, and he's had a much better outing since then. His outings since Ohio State have been not great, but not awful. So pretty typical, I would think of a typical, Big Ten starter. Indiana will be countering. Indiana's taking a different tact on it, and part of that is that whole Indiana's already in the tournament, so not, pushing hard to get a weekend starter in. Ben Seiler will be going for the Hoosiers. Biggs has had a couple of great relief outings lately. He's looked really sharp in his last couple of outings. And as coach describes him, he's the adult in the room. So they're going to get the tournament started with the adult in the room, with the graduate student who is the graduate student leader of the team that's going to try to get a few innings in. I would expect, and this is just speculation on my part, that Ethan Phillips would be available at some point. I don't know that for sure. So I don't know exactly what the thought process is going to be on following that up. That will be interesting to see what they decide to do in that regard. But that will be the Illinois game. As for what they would do in the second game, I'm assuming that we would, for Indiana, see Sennard throwing in the second game, whether it was Wednesday or Thursday. That's my assumption. We don't know that, but the coaching staff has hinted very heavily that the idea was to get him onto a schedule to where he could throw one of the first 2 games. And since he's not throwing, obviously, the first game, it would be the second game, most likely. As for what the other teams decide to do, most interestingly, Iowa threw Brody Brecht on Saturday. So Brody Brecht would be only on
3 days rest if Indiana were to face Iowa on Wednesday. He would be on 4 days rest if that matchup were to happen on Thursday, if it was a winner's match bracket game. I have not looked at on how Michigan is deploying O'Halloran, who is, I expect, going to be named Big Ten Pitcher of the Year. I don't know if they're going to try to throw him right away to get that early win. That will be interesting to see what Michigan decides to do tomorrow morning, because obviously that's pretty early. So we will have a little bit more information on that. So it adds to the intrigue of the strategy because of not everybody starting late in the week. You're not necessarily seeing every team go with aces, but the advantage for Indiana is if Indiana can pull this off and steal a win against Illinois, Indiana should then have its pitching set up for a really nice run through the tournament. Yeah. But it's getting that elusive first win. That is something that I don't think they've gotten a first win in a Big Ten tournament since 2014, if I remember right. So
been a while.
And Illinois has definitely been a pain in our side in the Big Ten tournament. They've gotten us a couple of times,
except for last year.
Yeah, I was gonna say not last year.
Yeah.
Bradley Brimmer took care of that last year.
Yes,
he said no.
But you know what they say? You always remember the losses more than the wins, and I'm definitely remembering some of those losses. Yeah. No, I'm excited though. Like you said at the beginning, is it make or break this year? No, it was last year. We had to win the tournament to play any more baseball games. I don't think we do. I don't think Iowa does, and we know Maryland doesn't. We're all in. And then I think the other 5 teams have to win this tournament to play any more baseball. So they're going to deploy pitching different. They're going to take more risks. They're not going to, be as cautious. And sometimes those are the guys you got to worry about. You know what I'm saying?
They don't have
Nobody had us
lose.
knocking out the 1 seed last year. I know that.
Yeah.
Well, and historically, and it's interesting because most of you don't hear a ton about it. In fact, honestly, it's the first time on the D1 Nerdcast was the one they released today was the first time I heard them even mention the idea of a Big Ten stolen bid. The Big Ten bid is stolen almost every time.
It's always stolen. Yeah.
It got stolen in 2017 when it was here in Bloomington. Iowa stole it. In fact, it was known to be stolen. It was Iowa playing Northwestern in the championship game.
Yeah.
All of the at-large teams were, it was
Ohio State has stolen one in recent years. I know that.
They stole it and that was the year Michigan went to the championship. So Michigan got an at-large bid. Ohio State stole the bid. Last year Michigan stole it. Michigan was not getting in the tournament. Now we think they stole it from Rutgers.
Right.
Well, that was the thing. Rutgers should have got in.
But the thing that the D1 Nerdcast group said very emphatically was that those 3 Big Ten teams, Indiana, that you mentioned, Indiana, Iowa, and Maryland, are in. And if if there is a stolen bid out of the Big Ten, that will make the Big Ten a 4-bid league. So, and it's happened. I mean, I think when there was one year, I forgot which year it was. I think it was 18 probably that there was. And again, it was a stolen bid, and that's what got the Big Ten up to 5 bids.
Right.
That's the highest bid count, and again, it came from a stolen bid. So, and they didn't they didn't pull an at-large from it, unlike last year. But I think there were multiple factors last year. Really, not the least of it was that really objectively Rutgers' resume was lacking in many ways. So
I hadn't realized how much until you spelled it all out.
Yeah. I didn't realize until I went to type it all out and actually look it up. I was like, oh, I didn't realize that they lost a series to, I don't even remember who that was yet. They're so unmemorable that I don't remember it.
The national media was very upset about that also.
Well, yeah. And it more came from the perspective of that Rutgers was not a traditional Power 5. They've not been in the Big Ten very long. Mm-hmm. And it was such a good story that they came out and did so well over the year, and to not get rewarded for that. That's one thing. I would have not had any problem if Indiana had the same resume. I would have not been upset about it. But it was the fact that you had a team that was really developing a program and it was a chance to highlight a team program that was being developed and not do it that I thought should have been given a consideration. But that's my soapbox on that.
And Carl, I have confirmed that it has not been outside of 2014 to win the first game of the Big Ten tournament.
Yep. So that's the big challenge that Indiana has ahead. And let's be honest, Indiana was 2-6 in opening game of the series this year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing that 6 of those losses happened in the first game.
Yeah.
So that's a huge piece there.
Yep.
It has been 2 weeks since we have all gotten together. So Chris now has 2 weeks worth of red belts to divvy out.
Yes, the last 2 weeks, because these are regular season awards, Carl. We don't give out the red belts as a cumulative award, including the postseason. Honestly, because you're not guaranteed those games, right? You're not even guaranteed Big Ten tournament games, as we learned last year, because we almost didn't have them. So for the Purdue weekend and Evansville, which I threw in there too, for the Alex Dickerson Award, and the national media definitely agreed with this one. Josh Pine gets it. He won the big player of the week. He won a national player of the week. He outscored Purdue for the weekend. If you consider runs affected, he had 10 hits and 14 RBIs, and Purdue didn't have 24 runs. So Josh Pine beat Purdue for the weekend, was a national player of the week. So he's picking that one up. Bobby Whalen with some outstanding catches. One where he dove into that center field wall. I was out on the berm watching, and it was just really special catches from Bobby for the weekend. So he's picking up the Tony Butler. And for pitching, I'm going Luke Hayden. He really did surprise me with the 4 innings, 1 earned run, 5 Ks. I think he can be a good piece for us. I know it seemed like he was gone for a while, but as good as he was throwing, he's going to end up with the Joey Donato Award. And then when you come into this last weekend against Michigan State, another arm that seemed to have been off the list for a while, Ty Bothwell. So he went 4 innings as well, just 2 runs, not as many strikeouts, but you know what? The way he has changed his mechanics and he's pitching a little different, and I think that's part of the plan. He's pitching to contact more from what I've noticed. I think Ty has a little different plan now, and it's working, right? So Ty Bothwell picks up the Joey Donato Award. For the Tony Butler, I mean, the catch Tyler Cerny made, full out sprint. I mean, over the shoulder, it was crazy. The young man was almost to the warning track. Amazing stuff. So he picks up the Tony Butler. If there was ever a weekend, and I know Carl mentioned it, to not give one out or possibly give it to some excellent plays that helped us out in another game we wanted to win. We could have considered doing that, but I can't do that. So we're going to give it to Tyler Cerny. And then this one's pretty obvious, I feel like. Alex Dickerson Award's going to Devin Taylor with the 2 home runs. He got moved down in the order, right? He'd been slumping a little bit. I think that was really, honestly, the first time he went a couple of games without even a hit. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it did seem that way to me. I feel like, it's like everyday Devin. He's going to get a hit. He's going to get an extra base hit. He's going to hit a scolding line drive somewhere. And then for a little while, it didn't happen. But 2 home runs and, another hit. So we had 3 hits and 2 bombs. And that to pick up his, which would be the final Alex Dickerson Award of the week. So, again, we have Josh Pine, Bobby Whalen, and Luke Hayden for the first end of the week. And then Ty Bothwell, Tyler Cerny, and Devin Taylor to wrap up the regular season awards. Now, Cass is our Big Picks champion. So she gets to announce the season awards for the Red Belts, which she's going to do next. All yours, Cass.
Yes, and let me get this going. I've been keeping track of these as we've been going. It took a few years for me to think to keep track of these as we're going, instead of trying to go back and count them all up at the end. So for the Joey Donato pitching red belt, we've got Luke Sennard taking it with 4. followed by Kraft in second place with 3. And then for the Alex Dickerson offensive red belt, we've got Devin Taylor, followed by the trio of Tibbetts, Glasser, and Matheson. They each had 2, whereas Devin had 4 as well. And then the Tony Butler defensive red belt, we're looking at Tyler Cerny with 4, followed by Pine with 3.
Awesome. Can you scroll back up to pitching?
Yeah.
Because there's one thing I want to point out. There are 9 pitchers listed here.
Yes.
He has a lot of tools
Yes.
in the toolbox, Carl.
Yeah, there again. This team went into the Big Ten tournament with 6 trusted arms last year.
Yes. Yes.
That might be a little. You might be stretching it with that.
Yeah.
6, right?
Yes. And I love how spread out it really was all the time. Because Senard stood out on the pitching end. Taylor stood out on the offensive side.
And just to interrupt real quick with the offense, Taylor did stand out, but Tibbetts was amazing.
Yes.
But I think it was that Taylor had the bigger, like, game tying home run, go ahead home run.
Right.
2 home runs in the game we had to win.
Yes.
But there was a lot of times where it was between Brock and Taylor. I have to say that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And Brock has been doing it every week all year.
Yeah.
Correct.
He hasn't had like that one crazy weekend where he gets a whole bunch. I think he may have had one of those, which is probably why one or two of the ones that he had there. But the point is, he hasn't had a where did Brock go weekend. We don't talk about that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but even here we've got 3, 6, 7 for offensive, and we've got another 7 on the defensive end.
Yeah.
It's just such a balanced team across the board. And it takes something like that Maryland series to see the wheels fall off a little bit. Like, it takes a quality opponent. I mean, heck, Texas won the Big 12, right? And we took 1 out of the 3 there early season.
Mm-hmm.
Took 1 out of 3 at Auburn early season. This kind of balance is huge. If one person is slumping, it's not the end of the world.
Yep.
And it's very rare for more than 1.
Well, Indiana has a win against the Big 12 champion, the Missouri Valley champion, and the MAC champion.
Yeah. Yep.
Maybe one more.
I mean, June, there's some possibilities in June. Absolutely. I really hope. I mean, this is obviously me being a little, hopeful just to, I just want to be able to go. So put us somewhere close. If anyone from the committee is listening, don't say, I just saw one to Arkansas. I was like, no. I think I've seen one to Alabama. I mean, maybe that's doable, but not really. Let's get something drivable easily.
Well, I will say you're going to see so many fields of 64 come out, and a lot of these are going to get posted. I'm going to caution everybody, ignore the location placement. The effort that's being taken by these guys right now, they're not making a lot of effort into setting all of these because there's so many variables that go into the location piece that until things get locked down, you're really close and locked down, you just can't know. So you need more of the automatic bids to be scooped up. And you need to have a better picture of what the final hosting picture is going to look like, which got completely blown up this past weekend, mostly by Texas sweeping West Virginia. It completely blew up the hosting picture. And the Big 12 tournament is now a race for a host site. So that's going to be, if you're interested in a power conference having a really meaningful conference tournament, it's the Big 12 because you have 3 teams that all could or could not host. that tied for the championship there, duking it out to try to figure out who's gonna be on top. So from a hosting perspective, really there's two teams we are really closely looking at in conference tournaments. And that is the Kentucky Wildcats, who will be hosting. I'm very confident they will be hosting, but I think it's just one of those things. It would be nice, be a little bit more comforting if Kentucky can at least get that play-in win in Hoover, Alabama tomorrow. They'll be playing there tomorrow. The other tournament, which actually, if you're in this area, you might be able to go to, as the Missouri Valley tournament is at Bob Warren Field in Terre Haute, Indiana this week. So if you do want to see some interesting college baseball, the Missouri Valley is actually a very interesting one. Now you can also watch it on ESPN Plus if you have that available to you. But either way, the Missouri Valley Conference will be tournament will be interesting, and Indiana State is hosting that tournament. Indiana State has to win that tournament for them to be considered for a host. There is a split among the pundits. Some of them say that Indiana State is absolutely in the picture. Others say they're absolutely not in the picture. I think everyone agrees, though, that they're going to have to win the MVC, the Missouri Valley Conference tournament, in order for that to at all come into reality. It's possible they absolutely tear through the tournament and they still don't host. So again, I'm not making any promises, because their biggest issue is their record against the top 50 is still like 2-9 right now. They have 2 wins against top programs. One of them is against Indiana. Indiana split with Indiana State. The other one was a pretty impressive, though, midweek down in Nashville when they beat Vanderbilt. So those are the two big wins that they're hanging their hats on. But that is not common to have only 2 top 50 wins and host a regional. Right. That is really not common. But their RPI is top 10 right now. So we'll see. We just don't know. That this is not, there's no real precedent for a top 10 RPI team to not have top more than, they have only 2 top wins. So that is something new.
I'm just being greedy, Carl. I want to be able to go to the ball game. Absolutely. I mean,
yep.
I've had some fun times. And, we've been to Louisville, we've been to Kentucky. We've seen games at the Bart. It's nothing like that tournament, man. Even watching the other games, like even when it's not your team, you go to the other games, and it's just the opportunity that these kids have. And that's why they're playing D1 ball. That's why they're, especially this time of year, right? There's no school. They've been in class for weeks. All they're doing is living and breathing and talking baseball. And then for the few teams that get to go to this NCAA tournament, it's really a special opportunity. And I'm greedy. I want to be able to go to it again.
Yep. So I am going to delve more into the regional assignment picture. I will delve more in that over the course of the week, really more towards the end of the week. And I think I am going to do what I did quite a while ago, because it's been a while since we've been Indiana's been in this picture. But I will do some sort of live. I'm probably going to be on YouTube. I'm going to try, because I think we can do that now again through Zoom. I gotta figure out exactly how to do it. But I think I'm going to do a YouTube live event to where I'll take questions. And I'll do a lot of my bracketology work before that, and then answer questions. I'm pretty sure the NCAA is going to follow the pattern they did last time and announce the hosts the night before. So we will know the host sites Sunday night. We will not know, the field itself will be revealed at 12 noon on Monday, Memorial Day. So that will be the day of the actual reveal, but we should know the hosts. And as right now, there's a big question. There are like 6 teams vying for the last 3 hosting slots. So there's a lot of things that are up in the air as to what the hosting picture is going to look like. And the thing is, all of these projections about Indiana going to all the places that Chris mentioned are all based on projecting who those last host sites are. And just one of those host sites change, and the picture can change completely. So until we really know who those host sites are, a lot of that doesn't make sense. Looking at past patterns, I really think if Indiana State and or Kentucky host, I think Indiana's going to be close. I don't see another 2 seed that would draw fans to buy tickets like Indiana's fans can to Kentucky, because you can't send any of the SEC teams to Kentucky. So that means that pretty much, anybody, well, I guess at this point though, West Virginia is now 2 seed. So that could be the thing that blows that up, is that West Virginia can go to Kentucky. I just dawned on me now, because I was, up until this past weekend, West Virginia was locked in as a host, and then they get swept at home. So I guess we kind of, from that perspective, want West Virginia. We want West Virginia to win the Big 12 tournament. So.
Go Mountaineers.
All right, and then
we know somebody from the mountains of West Virginia. Not hard to root for them.
Yep. So I do also, though, want to, given the details of the last week of the Big Ten Pick'em, in which Cassidy Palmer won not only the full season, Cassidy also won the week at 4-1, having accurately picked series wins from Iowa, Maryland, Ohio State, and Nebraska. Did not pick the upset in the Minnesota defeating Maryland. Minnesota defeating Rutgers series. So, which unfortunately, that pretty much burst Rutgers' bubble. Rutgers is now Rutgers has to win the Big Ten tournament. They know that now in order to get into the postseason. But Cassidy finishes at 30-13. That is an impressive picking record. I finished in second. I actually managed to come up because I didn't decide to go for it the last week. I just tried to pick straight this last weekend. So I did finish at 3-2 this last weekend because, again, I picked Purdue. I fell into the trap again, and the Boilermakers burned me. But it's okay because the Hoosiers burned the Boilermakers. So
yes, badly.
So my finals was 27-16. Josh went all in. So Josh was tied with me going into the last week, and he was making a play at first place. He was definitely taking the Top Gun method of there are no points for second place, and he went all in, and he ended up having a 1-4 week because of that, having only picked Maryland as his. But oddly enough, that series was so crazy close. That Friday game could have easily gone the other direction. And if that had happened, Chris would have actually turned out a lot better. But Chris still managed to have a winning week at 3-2. He only finished a game behind Josh in fourth. He finished still a respectable 24-19 on the season.
I'll take it.
So yes, that was a lot of interesting movement. Josh had the early lead. Cass was just steady Eddie until making that big. That, we all kind of threw our hands up when Josh picked Northwestern to beat Illinois, and it happened. Yeah. So that was just sort of like that was just like, oh, well, there's no chance. But Cass pulled it out. So congratulations, Cass.
It was fun, and it was kind of bizarre at times. I think the Big Ten had, like, there were definitely the top teams and bottom teams, but the middle was just kind of all a big mess, which made it fun.
Well, there's going to be a ton of coverage. I know that at least one, if not multiple, members of the student media will be heading out to Omaha. Obviously, from our group, Cassidy is heading out to Omaha, so we're going to have plenty of coverage of the team. Yeah, I'm probably going to be, with the exception of Nebraska, the biggest media contingent will be coming from Indiana.
I was going to ask that where the students going. That's great.
Yeah, I know that. Iowa has a pretty large contingent as well.
Iowa should have a good showing.
I guess Indiana played completely opposite times from Iowa, so I didn't didn't interact with them like I did the others. But yeah, like the teams Indiana played had nothing. Illinois brought nothing last year. Maryland had their radio guys there, so they do have that specific radio coverage, but they didn't have any print or internet media there last year. Of course, obviously that's that's more of a haul coming from College Park, Maryland to Omaha. But Nebraska's in the tournament, so that is good news for the tournament, and hopefully will be a lot more in the way of ticket sales and fans present with both Nebraska and Iowa, the two closest teams, in top 4 seeds. So Iowa is the 3rd seed, and Nebraska is the 4th seed. So, and we also know that well, there's Indiana alumni all over the place. So, and the tournament gets some national attention. Obviously, there's a lot of college baseball fans just in Omaha in general, and I remember some of the national sites did a lot of tweeting about the Big Ten tournament, because a lot of them, it's like a dude. Some of the national sites are a dude who lives in Omaha. And what's he going to do during this particular tournament season? He goes to the Big Ten tournament because that's the one that's played locally. So
nice.
Cool. So looking forward. That's kind of the one thing that's nice about not having postseason implications is taking in the larger picture of it and just enjoying some really nice college baseball. I'm going to be watching obviously on Big Ten Network, but I'm also going to have in the background while I'm doing other things, because I am taking the week off anyway. I'm going to have I'm going to have I'm going to be checking in on all the other conferences. Especially, I love checking in on some of the clear 1-bid league conferences. Those are just entertaining to watch, because those teams are all fighting for their lives for that one shot to get that seed and go get a trip to a big facility and play against the big boys. So it's a fun week. There's going to be a lot to take in the week in all of the tournaments. So will be entertaining. What other points did we have to make this week? I think I've covered everything on my list.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah, I think we touched on everything. It's not the urgency of last year, and we can just enjoy it. Cass, have a great time on the trip. I'm glad you're out there, just like I was glad Carl was. I was jealous last year, and I am now, but it's going to be a fun one, I think. I hope you get good weather. I know that threw a little monkey wrench in Carl's plans, but I pray for good weather for you.
Yes, it's looking good so far, if a little warm a few days.
Yeah.
I think we've got a high of 88.
It's air conditioned.
Yeah. And I think you will manage to avoid a midnight first pitch. So
yes, which I'm very grateful for.
Well, have fun, Cass. We'll be paying attention. We will, of course, and a lot of other people. We've gotten a lot more attention this year. Obviously, we're playing better, but even that last one that Carl put out about are we going to be Rutgers, whether it got people concerned or relieved, there's a lot of eyeballs on it. I know that.
Yes.
All right. Well, that will do it for this edition of Talking Hoosier Baseball. Again, you will very likely hear another episode from me regarding the tournament selection. So I'll post stuff about that. We will try to get post-game audio to you. Cassidy and I have to work out the logistics on that.
Yep.
We're going to try to work out the logistics on that. So I can't guarantee that's going to happen, because it all kind of depends on where they sit at Cassidy in that. Because it's not quite as flexible as we're used to getting in our post-game situations.
And if I remember right from last year, they do typically have unless there's a game that has to start up immediately, they have the post-game press conferences on BTN after the game.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And they definitely they continue to kind of play while they're waiting for other games. They'll play clips and stuff from it.
Right.
So, yeah.
So if we're not able to get that, there is always, it will air somewhere.
Yeah. And you'll hear Cassidy asking questions. So.
Oh, yay.
Yes. She's going to be grilling Tracy Smith. Oh. So I'm just waiting for that. So.
Give him hell, Cass. Give him hell.
Oh.
On that note, for Cassidy Palmer, Chris Feeney, of course, Josh Bennett, who is always doing a lot for us behind the scenes. I'm Carl James. And while it won't be this season, it will be at some point. We will see you at the park.